to drop my croissant.
Hello there, welcome back to Strength for Tomorrow Radio with me, Stuart Thompson. So glad you could join me. Didn't have a show last week, you might have noticed. Maybe you didn't because it was Easter and all. Good Friday. You're probably full of chocolate. You're probably still hungover from eating chocolate while you're listening to this. Have you got any Easter eggs left? If you do, I'll take one for the team. Send them this way. I'll take care of them for you. But we've been super busy. So last week we didn't have a show. Week before we had a show, and hopefully you got something out of it, how to train when you don't have time. This week we're gonna have a similar theme, how to eat when you don't have time. So it's something we can all relate to. You're on the go, you don't have time to meal prep or meal plan. What do you go for? What do you eat? So we're gonna dive into that, and hopefully you get lots and lots out of it. So we're super busy last week. We're planning a couple of exciting things coming up in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes peeled for that. There'll be more news on that on the show next week. We've also hopefully got a special guest lined up for next week. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but keep your eyes peeled on social media for that. So without further ado, let's dive into this week's show. So on the last episode, we discussed what you can do with regards to training if you don't have time to train. Give you all sorts of options and scenarios, and hopefully you put some of those into use if that is something that you struggle with. And next week, hopefully, we're going to have a guest who's going to delve into that a little bit more. She's got a lot of experience in that, being a busy mum and a business person herself. She's always showing on Instagram how she's able to work out throughout the day in little snippets, and it's great. It's a really great motivation for people, especially young mothers who don't get a lot of time to themselves. So today we're going to think about part 2, how to eat on a busy schedule. So setting up your training is half the battle. You really need to support yourself with proper nutrition, so breakfast, lunch and dinner. And this is the one I really struggle with, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there listening who struggle as well. There are some things you can do. It's not a lost cause, but it's so important. It really is at least half of your chances of success. If you get this right, it sets you up brilliantly. If you get it wrong, it's going to really jeopardize you and scupper your chances. So in this episode, we're going to tell you exactly how you can create sustainable nutrition habits that you can actually adhere to, that you can actually stick to. So what about meal prep? Have you ever tried meal prep? It always seems boring, doesn't it? You see people doing it online and it always looks like it's really dreary and boring, and they're usually eating rice and broccoli and chicken with no sauce. Am I right? Do you ever see those? TikTok, Instagram, etc. But it doesn't have to be boring. Basically, meal prep is about how you plan your meals for the next couple of days, the next few days. So generally you can eat most things for up to 3 days after you have cooked them, as long as they're still in date. So things like meat, you want to be a bit extra careful about. Other things, you just want to be careful they're still within their sell-by date and they're not going stinking in the fridge. But meal prepping is so efficient and so effective to ensure that you're going to get all your nutrients in, and that you're not just going to approach your nutrition on a day-to-day or a minute-by-minute basis. You actually know what's coming next. You know what's coming for your breakfast, what you're going to have when you wake up, what you're going to have for lunch, what you're going to have for your dinner that night. And you know the same thing for the next couple of days. So if you're coming into Sunday night, you know what you're going to have for Monday, you know what you're going to have for Tuesday, and you're thinking ahead of what you're going to get prepared for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's a method based that's going to save you time and money, because whenever you buy things in bulk, you tend to get better value. So you're going to get more, a better quantity for your money, and it'll also give your body everything you need to sustain a really healthy functioning dietary system, and it's going to support your goals. It's going to support your training. You know, you're doing all sorts of things during the day in your job. You're probably doing some sort of mental arithmetic. You're probably doing all sorts of mental acrobatics, and maybe you're doing a physical job. You're going to have to include that in it as well. But that's very core. Meal prepping really implies cooking, and cooking enough for a few days ahead all at once. And then you can separate it up. You can it makes it easier to know how much you're putting into your body on each occasion. If you are counting calories, that's particularly helpful because then you know how many calories roughly you're getting per day based upon how you divide your food up. So it doesn't really matter what type of food you enjoy, you can do this with pretty much any type of food. It's a really flexible option as well. You can maybe cook 2 or 3 things at the same time, so you're not getting bored of eating the exact same thing. Maybe have 2 or 3 options and stagger them throughout the coming days. Basically, it allows you to prepare certain foods in bulk. So chopping all your vegetables at once, cooking all your meat at once, which you can then use to create lots and lots of different recipes. If you cook a bunch of chicken, you can fire it into lots of different recipes, different flavors, different spices. It gives you so much variety that you can choose from. So it doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be cauliflower, broccoli, or dry rice and chicken with no sauce. Make it interesting. And yeah, you can do that with pretty much anything, as we will talk about. So something I'm always emphasizing whenever I'm working with clients or even on social media is the importance of putting protein first in your diet. Now, a lot of people, for them, protein will be an afterthought. Protein will be something that they think about. Oh wait, there wasn't much protein in that. Maybe I should throw some chicken in. Not good enough. You need to make sure protein is your number one priority when it comes to arranging your plate, arranging your meals. So alongside that, fat is really important. And a lot of people, there was a craze in this sort of 80s, 90s, even into the noughties, where low fat, everything was low fat, low fat, low fat. We now know that, well, not only were all those kind of studies that was based upon funded by dubious sources, shall we say, but we also know that fat is really, really important for normal hormone production. It's so important for all sorts of things. So if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you'll know that those are two of the macronutrients that we're really, really keen to emphasize when it comes to planning your meal and make sure you're getting enough of those. They really are essential for your body. They regulate a variety of vital processes, things like recovery, healthy function of all your body systems and tissues, and as we said, regulating your hormone function and production. So if either of those two or if you're deficient in either of those two, it means you will experience a lot of unpleasant and nasty side effects like getting exhausted prematurely, constant fatigue and tiredness, maybe even brain fog, a bit of mental fogginess, and disrupted sleep cycles, low testosterone essentially. So it's really, really important for men and women that you get enough protein and enough fat into your meals. So that's why it's a good idea to pick out your protein and your fat sources first, to make them your biggest priority. If you're an omnivore, so you're someone who eats meat, eats plants, eats a lot of different sources, animal products should be I don't even like saying animal products. Animal sources should be your main priority whenever it comes to getting protein and fat. They contain all of the essential amino acids and fatty acids. Essential basically means that those are nutrients that your body really needs for optimal health and it can't produce its own. So this means that most of your daily protein will come from foods like chicken, beef, eggs, fish, prawns, cheese, milk, other dairy products as well. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, then you are probably best off combining different grains, beans, and other legumes to get sort of a semi-decent amino acid profile, but you're still going to have to eat a large quantity of those to get anywhere near the amount of protein that is necessary, whether you're trying to build muscle or you're trying to lose fat optimally. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm saying you're going to be doing it less than optimally. Send your hate mail in. So number 2 in your priority list should be your carbohydrate source. Now, for a lot of people, this shouldn't be as much a priority as your protein and your protein and your fats. As we said, protein and fats are essential for the body, but the fact of the matter is that carbohydrates aren't exactly the same. A lot of people will jump into one or two camps. They'll be like, carbs are great, carbs are fine, eat lots of carbs. Other people will be like, don't eat carbs, carbs cause you get fat, put on weight, blah, blah, blah. Here's my take on it. A lot of people, a lot of us, are carb loading every single day for marathons that we never run. So have you heard of the phrase carb loading? So basically, like before a marathon, runners, athletes will like stuff themselves full of pasta and pizza and all sorts of stuff. Carb loading, all sorts of things come under the umbrella of carb loading. But what I mean by that is a lot of us aren't even doing intense enough physical activity to actually deplete our glycogen stores. We're not actually doing enough exercise to warrant stuffing ourselves full of carbs. So for a lot of people, the excess calories that we consume likely come from our carbohydrate source. So whether that's pasta, rice, potatoes, whatever. And it's so easy to overeat on carbohydrates, right? It's so easy to stuff ourselves full of them. Some people just love potatoes. Some people just love rice. Some people just love quinoa, pasta, whatever. The issue is it's just so easy to overeat on it and underestimate how many calories we're actually consuming when it comes to them. Whenever it comes to chicken and meat and things, you kind of start getting a bit full of it and a bit, not sick of it, but you start getting full up of it, right? With carbohydrates, the same thing doesn't generally happen. Now, carbohydrates are the preferred energy source for your body, so it's easy for it to turn it into glucose pretty quickly, but they're not essential in that your body can produce glucose, and this is via a process called gluconeogenesis. Bit of a mouthful, but you can look that one up. And though that stands true, it's always a good idea to get your daily carbohydrates in, especially if you are an active individual. So if you are more active, you're going to need carbohydrates more so than somebody who's not as active. That being said, most of us in the West tend to overeat on carbohydrates without a thought or concern about how much energy we're actually taking in via carbohydrates. So there's loads and loads of different types of carbohydrates. There's grains, there's beans, there's legumes, and lots of other whole grain products that you can use. I hate using the word product, but it's probably not a bad description of it because a lot of them are processed to some extent. Not always, but they can be. These will basically grant you a consistent, gradual flow of energy to the body. So talk about high GI, low GI foods, and basically to meet all of its energy needs for physical and mental activities, carbohydrates are a pretty useful source for most of us. Brown rice, white rice, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, oats, starchy vegetables even, and even fruits. So they'll all fit in under the category of carbohydrates to some extent, and you can debate about this all day if you really want to, but that's why they're number 2 on the priority list. Hopefully that little bit at the start explains why they should be your second priority rather than your first. So number 3, the next priority whenever you're planning your meals, are micronutrients. So these are nutrients that you will not get very many calories worth from, you're not going to get much energy from, but you're going to get other important details for your diet. Besides protein and fat, most micronutrients are also essential for your body. So this is vitamins and minerals. That's basically what we're talking about. It needs them to regulate certain processes, and you need them probably today more than ever because of the poorer quality of food that we are now consuming compared to what our fathers, grandfathers, and great grandfathers and parents did, because all sorts of reasons: toxicity, pesticides, heavy metals, all these sort of things being absorbed by the plants in the ground. So whether you're eating meat or whether you're eating vegetables or fruit, you're going to be taking in all of those sort of things. And whenever you take in the quality minerals and vitamins that you actually do need, it can help offset this intake of poor quality nutrition, shall we say. So if you rely on diverse nutrition and include lots of different ingredients in your diet, you don't really need to pay too much attention to micronutrients. Although, interesting statistics, there's a book I'm reading at the minute called The Mineral Fix, and it's a scary number for the amount of people who are deficient in about 10 minerals in the West. I think it's primarily the USA, but it's kind of scary once you get into it and all the different implications that can come from that. So if you have maybe micronutrient deficiencies, maybe chat with your doctor about that. Other problem is there's a lot of times it's very hard to test for these things. It can be really difficult to test, and there's no real gold standard for it. It's something that they're still working on, I guess, but it's kind of scary when you think of potential health implications that can come from mineral deficiency. So vitamins and minerals generally going to come from your fruit, your veg, really like leafy greens, colourful fruits and veg. Those are the ones. And then things like liver, meats as well. So kidneys, liver, all those organ meats. Those are going to be the things that are going to really get you lots of B vitamins and iron and lots of essential minerals. So don't ignore them, is what I'm trying to say. But I'm not saying you have to have liver or kidneys in every meal, but try and get some sort of fruit and veg at least into your diet, into your day, into your diet. So step number 4, cook in bulk. So once you've picked your favorite protein source, your fat, your carbohydrate sources, it's time to get cooking. So for your meats, you can marinate them. It's really easy to make a marinade. Really basic one is soy sauce, salt and pepper. Simple as that. Go for the low sodium one if you really want to keep that salt under control. But add more salt if you want to as well. Basically it comes down to flavour. It comes down to what your preferences are. Whenever I would meal prep, whenever I was living on my own in Portstewart for 6 or 7 years, well, on my own for about 2 or 3 years, I got really into meal prepping. So I would meal prep on kind of Monday evening. That would do me until like about Wednesday, and then I would do it again on Wednesday, and that would do me through till the weekend. So about 2 or 3 times in the week, that is all you really need to do it if you plan it and structure it correctly. I used to make a marinade out of different things. Sometimes it would be some balsamic vinegar in it. Sometimes it would be red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, things that are going to tenderize your meat. And I would try and marinate them the night before. And yeah, I would use soy sauce as well. I would use salt, pepper. I would use herbs and spices as well. I would experiment with those. I would encourage you to do the same thing because your taste is going to be different from my taste. So if I could tell you my favorite flavor and favorite combination, and you'd be like, oh, I don't really like barbecue, or I could tell you like a really nice curry one that I came up with, and you'd be like, no, I'm not really a curry person. So figure it out for yourself is what I'm trying to say. Play about with it, experiment with it, see what you need to do different, write it down even so you can remember for next time, and have fun with it. So you kind of want to plan out your meal, thinking about portions, thinking about your meals. So if you're gonna be doing it, say you're gonna prepare it on a Sunday evening, maybe you're gonna eat it that Sunday evening. Maybe you're gonna eat it again for Monday night, then maybe you're gonna have it for Tuesday lunchtime, or maybe you're gonna have it Monday lunchtime and then Tuesday night. You're gonna stagger it that way. Maybe you need a chicken fillet essentially for everyone, at least one chicken fillet, maybe one and a half, maybe two. So plan ahead like that. Try and think about it. Don't think of it in terms of total amount of meat on the board because it's going to look huge. It's going to look like it's overkill. Excuse the pun, but it's going to look like it's too much. So maybe you should portion it all out individually. Like think about right. That's how many meals you're going to get. Count them up and then add them up, chop them up, marinate them, put them in a bowl, dip them there, leave them in for an hour, leave them in overnight if you really want to. If you've got time to do that, grill them, fry them, do whatever you want to do, but do it consistently, do it regularly that way if you can. Maybe try 2 or 3 different marinating bowls, try different flavours. I always loved stir fries. It was so easy to put a stir fry together, and then yeah, that was my go-to. It was quick, it was easy. It was easy to keep an eye on the calories, it was easy to count them, it was easy to know how much you're eating. And yeah, you could marinate different flavours and throw them all in together. So for your grains and maybe your root crops, you can just use basic seasoning and preparation. Just chop it up nice and fine. It'll cook quicker. Once that's done, you'll have a really solid amount of carbohydrates ready on demand. So if you're wanting to get in some fats, think about your avocados. Think about your fats that come from your dairy as well. So your cheese, maybe your eggs as well, maybe your milk, yogurt, all those sort of things. Try and get your fat in from sensible sources. Nuts and seeds are other great options as well. We're going to chat a bit about those a little bit later. So since these are prepared in a really basic way, you can use them as a base to add upon. Okay, think of those as your base ingredients, and then you're going to start making them more interesting and less boring, so you don't fall asleep when you're eating them or just dread eating them because they're so bland and flavourless. Like chicken, let's be honest, chicken's pretty boring. It's a pretty boring meat. Give me steak all day long. And you can do steak as well. If you want to get steak, mince is also a great one. You can do so much with mince. Try and get the low fat one, obviously. Try and squeeze out all that fat because it's disgusting whenever it solidifies. Oh, nothing would turn me quicker. So for example, you can take some of the pre-cooked meat, toss it into a preheated pan, some vegetables, glazes, other spices, mix it up, and then let it cool, portion it out, and then put it in the fridge. And it'll keep for up to 3 days. Do have a sniff test though. Okay, don't hold me responsible if you get the scoots. Have a bit of a sniff test. Test it out for yourself. Your nose will lead you. If you've had COVID, well, I don't know, get a friend to smell it. Apparently you can retrain your smell after you've had COVID. Do you know that? You can like smell things that you know what they smell, so like petrol or like diesel. I'm giving you substances here. It's probably not the best. Don't smell those things. Actually, take that back. Smell grass. Smell. I mean, like the stuff you cut in your lawn. Smell. I know coffee's pretty strong. Smell deodorant. Your favorite perfume. Your favorite aftershave. Apparently, if you smell those, you can retrain yourself to get back and then smell more unfamiliar things. Just a little aside there. So, the same goes for your carb sources, meaning that you can craft a wide variety of recipes and bring lots of diversity into your nutrition and your meals. Even though you cook the foods, the same foods every time, you can make them more interesting. Like there's so many flavor profiles out there that you can just chuck into chicken. That's a great thing with chicken. It's a lean meat, but it also takes flavor so well compared to other types of meat. And turkey. Turkey's pretty good as well. It's a little bit more dry, a little bit more boring. Again, these are just your bases for your meals. You can add as many or as few vegetables as you want. Dried tomatoes, olives, any other kind of side products that you'd like as well, just to get in a bit of extra flavour and to keep it interesting. Beetroots, I used to throw beetroots in randomly. It's a bit of a strange one, but I got to really, I wouldn't say like, I got to tolerate them. But they are actually really good for you. So step number 5 then, this is the last one. Enjoy your food and your time. So most people think that cooking your own food is really time and money consuming, but the truth is it really is the opposite of that. It can be time consuming if you're doing each individual meal every night and not thinking ahead. That can be time consuming if you're thinking, I'm going to make this last 2 or 3 nights, and you can tolerate it, or you mix things up a little bit and plan it and you have different flavours different nights but cook it all at the same time. That's going to work as well. Home prep food is always going to be cheaper and it's going to take less total time. By the time you drive to a takeaway or a restaurant or whatever, it's going to cost you petrol or diesel money, it's going to cost you time, it's going to cost you car parking, it's going to be more stressful, and it's always going to be more expensive. So people all the time, they will say that eating healthily is more expensive than eating unhealthily, and I would beg to differ. Sooner or later, eating unhealthy is going to catch up with you in your health. It's going to cost you your health. It's not just about monetary value, it's about your health. Health matters. Your health matters, and what you put in, it's going to show itself sooner or later. There's so many illnesses and chronic diseases that are linked to poor nutrition. And with that in mind, it makes more sense that you can and I can cook whenever we can, wherever we can, at home, as much as possible, so that we are going to be in command and control as much as possible of what goes into our bodies. You don't know what they're putting in the food that you get from a takeaway. You don't know what you're getting whenever you order food and it's processed. How many different ingredients. Even if some of them are listed, you don't know what all goes in there or what effect that has on your body. The food business, it is a business. It's an industry. And what do businesses want to do? Generally, they want to keep overheads down. They want to keep costs down. And that in itself is going to fall on the quality of the product at some stage, whether you notice it or not. It's important that you don't notice it, actually. So there might be things happening that you are disguising so you don't know what's going on. Does that make sense? So on top of that, developing this really healthy habit that you're cooking at home and you know how to cook, it's being resourceful. It's a survival skill as much as anything. People used to laugh because I was like mid-20s or early 30s guy who knew how to cook and I could kind of fend for myself. Whenever I get into nutrition and trying to train, I really get into cooking because of that. I got into cooking because I wanted to train. I wanted to put the best fuel into my body. It's like putting crap fuel. It's like putting cooking oil into your diesel car. Like, they're both types of oil, right? But very, very different. Very, very different in their makeup. So it's a bit like that. So what is it you can lose with meal prepping? It's nothing really. It's a little bit of mental thought, a bit more mental thought perhaps. But if you find yourself in a situation beyond your control and you happen to be really, really, really busy, and you just have to find something in a hurry. So maybe you forgot to make your lunch, maybe you forgot you're on the go, your kids are going crazy, maybe your cat crapped on the floor this morning, maybe your baby has just thrown up everywhere, and then maybe your oven is broke all in the one day. I don't know. Could happen. Crazy stuff happens in this world. It's 2022. It hasn't happened to me yet, but it's probably happened to someone somewhere sometime. What can you do? You still need to get nutrition in. You still need to get quality sources of protein in, even if it's not the optimal sources of protein that you would want. What I would do is I would go for things like protein shakes, have a bag of whey protein on standby, protein bars. Again, not ideal, better than nothing. Milk, drink lots of milk. Protein milk, there's plenty of that in the shops now. So if you're on the go and you're going to that garage or in a shop, look for these things: protein milk, nuts, seeds, fruit, beef jerky, biltong, berries. They're all great sources of nutrition, and especially whenever you're on the go and you're in a hurry and you don't have time to think, you don't have time to cook anything or plan anything, just to keep you going. So that's what I would do. That's what I do quite regularly if I'm on the go and in a hurry. So try those. So in the modern world, busy daily lifestyle, eating healthily can often be a really difficult task for so many of us. More often than not, most of us fall for trend diets, like fad things that come along, and we don't really pay attention to the actual needs of our bodies. So like we said, our proteins, our fats, our carbohydrates, we never think of our food in terms of that. We just think of it in terms of, that'll do, that looks tasty, what's that in the menu when you go into a chippy or something. But this is where establishing an individual nutrition plan and cooking your own food can come in handy. And this is where I really encourage you to take ownership of it. Don't rely on a nutritionist, don't rely on a dietitian, don't rely on a PT even. Sounds silly, me being a PT, but take ownership for it yourself. Those other professionals aren't going to be around whenever you're eating 24/7. They're not even going to be around probably for any of your meals. So that's where it comes down to you taking responsibility, planning ahead. Your trainer is I'm gonna work hard with you in the gym. I'm gonna make sure you're doing things as well as you can. I'm gonna put together the best possible program for you, and I'm gonna make sure you execute it to the best of your ability in the gym. And I know you're gonna be working hard in the gym because I'm gonna be there watching you and observing and helping you with it. But I can't be there when you're not in the gym. So all I ask is that you do your part at home, and that's the hard part. That's the bit where it does take responsibility. But generally, following a balanced, diverse approach to your nutrition is your best bet. This is going to grant your body all the macro and micronutrients that it needs to function really well. Now, I know we're all creatures of habit. We've all got our favourite things we revert back to, but the more ingredients you can get in there, like fruit and veg and different sources of meat and protein, the better. Also, following this approach, preparing your body, preparing the majority for foods for your body in bulk, it's something that you can do to save time and money. If you buy 20 pack of chicken, it's going to be cheaper than buying a 3 or 5 pack of chicken. So always remember, take care of your body. Take care of it on a regular basis. Don't think of it in terms of just a Monday morning you feel guilty because you had a kebab at the weekend or a pizza. Think ahead, think of the month, think of the year, think of 5 years' time, think of what you're putting in your body, how it's going to interact with your body, and what it's going to do for your health long term. Nutrition, it's not really a diet with a start and an end date, but rather it's a habit, it's a lifestyle. It's something that you adopt and that you try to maintain for the rest of your life. It's not about quick fixes, it's not about cutting carbs out before you go on holidays, it's not about trying to cut out bread or certain things, chocolate, whatever it is. It's about trying to give your body the best possible nutrients as much of the time as possible. And whenever it's not possible, just make the best choice that you can. So hopefully this was helpful. If you've any questions about any of this, if you've got any suggestions or any ideas around meal plan and meal prep, I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about anything I've just said, if you've got any complaints, if you have any issues, do send them in. Had a complaint there last week. It's kind of funny. Said in person as well. I'm in two minds about whether I should elaborate on it. I'll not bother. I'll not embarrass the person. But do send your complaints in, they're very amusing to me. Okay, it's joke of the week time. So, don't know if you know this, but there's one time whenever I asked my date to meet me at the gym, and she didn't show up. I know, sad I know, but that was whenever I knew that we weren't going to work out. I love puns. Love them. That is it. That's the end of another show. Thank you so much for listening. And if you've got any questions you'd like us to answer, do send them in to info@crossfunctionalfitness.co.uk or through DMs on Instagram, Facebook messages, whatever your favourite medium is to use. Not on TikTok though, because, well, I think it's for kids, is it not? Maybe not. Maybe I need to get into TikTok. If you're on TikTok and you recommend it, let me know. Next week, going to be back with a special guest, so keep your eyes peeled for that on Instagram, Facebook. We're going to have, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to unveil it. It's someone local though, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what she is going to achieve in the next number of months and years, because it's a great new venture she has started. Keen to support it, keen to support her message, really enjoy following her on social media. So yeah, tune in for that. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.